morning this morning, and welcome to a consensus Mount Rushmore of all-time freshman greats at Ohio State edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor this morning before we get into the video. Smash that like button. We absolutely appreciate that. It helps the channel out immensely, and it'll help get this video out to more eyeballs and more great Ohio State fans just like you. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It costs you nothing. It's absolutely free, and we appreciate that. It makes us and our egos feel better, as well as putting a comment down in the comment section below. That also helps reach a broader audience as well, and we appreciate that. So at any point during this conversation, something strikes your fancy, let us know about it in the comment section below. All right, let's dive into it, guys. So a couple weeks ago, I came across the idea of asking our panel on Sunday night. And by the way, if you're not attending our live Sunday night shows, you need to do that. It's great. We have not only the home team of hosts, but we always bring in at least one guest every single week to join us in the panel to talk about not only the topics that are facing Ohio State on a weekly basis, but great conversations like this one. Where does Jeremiah fit in the all-time greats when it comes to freshman seasons at Ohio State? Now, I narrowed the conversation down to true freshmen, not redshirt freshmen, not guys who'd been there for a year and was redshirted and it's their redshirt freshman year, but true freshmen, 18, 19-year-old guys, first year on campus, step on campus and make an immediate impact year number one. And I kind of mentioned this a few weeks ago when talking about Jeremiah Smith in a morning video, and it led to further discussion. And that discussion led me to realize I was wrong about my off the top of my head list. And after doing some research, all four people who were on the panel had the exact same Mount Rushmore of freshmen. So let's dive into what that list is and why, and I think you're going to enjoy this. Now, let's start with number one, and the whole reason why we're having this conversation, why this video is even being made, and that is Jeremiah Smith. Now, Jeremiah had a tremendous year last year, 76 receptions, 1,315 yards, 15 touchdowns. He had 6 rushes for 47 yards and a tutty as well. And Jeremiah Smith blew away all previous freshman records at Ohio State for wide receivers. Um, Chris Carter held a lot of those records as a freshman, and he surpassed them well before we even made it to the postseason. And he had a great postseason run with big games against Tennessee, Oregon, and then the big game and huge catch to seal the deal against Notre Dame late in the game. So Jeremiah Smith is on this Mount Rushmore, hands down, no question about it. One of the only reasons why we're even having this conversation was because of this guy right here. So he's on there. That's not a debate. Now, this is where it can get a little interesting, and I for one threw this guy on here, and after diving into the numbers, um, there there was actually a running back who had better stats, but I don't know that he had the same impact, and that is Maurice Clarett. Now, this would be the only controversial guy on this list in a sense that he only played 1 year at Ohio State. He had that huge freshman year in 2002 and then tried to petition to get into the NFL in 2003 as a true freshman. He lost that battle and had to sit out 2 years waiting for the opportunity to come back to go into the NFL drafted. By then, a lot of things had happened in his life. Obviously, it's all well documented. But thankfully, he's turned the page on a lot of those things. He's a great advocate for young athletes today. He does a lot of speaking engagements. He works with Ohio State. He followed the team around this year. I know that he's been a mentor for Jeremiah Smith. That was huge. Maurice Clarett, his freshman year in 2002, it was amazing. He now keep in mind Ohio State, I believe that year played 14 games, right? He only played 11 of them. He had 222 rushing attempts for 1,237 yards and 16 touchdowns. He also had 12 receptions for 104 yards and a pair of touchdowns, so 18 total touchdowns. And he did that in just 11 games. That's impressive. And of course, you don't get to tell the story of Maurice Clarett without mentioning one of the greatest hustle plays in Ohio State history. Maurice or Craig Krenzel throws the interception. Miami's running down the sideline. It looks like our national championship hopes have been dashed. And out of nowhere comes number 13 to swipe his hand and get the football back to the Buckeyes. And then, of course, we go on to play. We go on to get to overtime against the Hurricanes, and we beat them in, I think, double overtime to win the 2002 national championship. The only one Jim Tressel was able to win while he was here as head coach at Ohio State, but first national championship since Woody Hayes was able to win one. And so it was a monumental moment for me. I was actually a student in college, and just an incredible, incredible moment. It was a junior that year, and it was an just incredible moment. That year is magical to me. It'll always be magical. You can't think about that year without thinking about this guy and that play. And even though his freshman rushing stats might not be the best, I can't think of a more impactful running back as a freshman, and that even includes Archie Griffin. So Maurice Clarett is on that Mount Rushmore. Heather agreed, Corey agreed, Chris agreed. Maurice Clarett is there. Now, number 3. I forgot this guy when we were talking about this weeks ago. It's the big cat at linebacker. You want to talk about a genetic freak. I saw this guy play in high school. I was actually in junior high in Mount Vernon. He went to Westerville South, I believe it was. He was like running back, fullback, linebacker. He was out of the game before halftime. They were crushing us. He was he was just genetically bigger, stronger, faster than anybody that we had on our football team, and it wasn't even close. And that went into college, and it was more of the same. No one in college had seen somebody like this. Bosworth might have been the closest thing we saw genetically to someone like Andy Katzenmoyer from Oklahoma, but and that's just me kind of scratching my brain trying to think of like linebackers that would fit his mold. So Andy Katzenmoyer comes in, and I believe it was 1996 was his freshman year. He's got 12 starts, 85 tackles, 12 sacks, 23 tackles for loss. The sacks and the tackles for loss, by the way, are school records for a freshman. He had 4 interceptions that season, including one in the Rose Bowl, 3 forced fumbles, 6 pass breakups. He ended up becoming a second team All American. He was the Big Ten Freshman of the Year, and he was a freshman All American. Um, Dude was just completely biologically different than anybody else on the field. Okay. And he, of course, he goes on the NFL. He dealt with some injuries in the NFL, didn't have a long sustained career in the NFL, but his time at Ohio State was impressive. And Andy Katzenmoyer has to be on this list. Now, what's interesting about this, he's the only defensive player that made our Mount Rushmore, and he was, of course, again, all 4 guys that were chosen were consensus Mount Rushmore freshmen for us on the panel. So all 4 of us agreed Andy Katzenmoyer, he was that guy. The kids like to say that he's him. Yeah, he was him defensively for Ohio State. Okay, again, as far as just body, chemical makeup, genetics, the biologies, the freak look about him, the rare mix of speed and power and strength, he had it all at defensive linebacker. Andy Katzenmoyer is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of all-time freshmen, true freshmen at Ohio State. Now, I ask, who's the George Washington of this list? And I don't know. They were in really no particular order except for this guy. This guy, to me, is the most impressive freshman at Ohio State of all time. And of course, I'm talking about Orlando Pace. Now, let's give some love to the offensive linemen, guys. Okay, let's do that. Nobody, and I mean nobody, in the history of the game of college football has revolutionized a position like Orlando Pace did. And again, let me explain what I mean by this. How do you quantify the success of an offensive lineman when there really was no statistics you could point to, like running back or wide receiver or linebacker, like we just did? Well, they actually created an entire stat for offensive linemen based on this guy called the pancake. That's how impressive he was. I'll never forget watching him get three pancakes on one play. He pancakes the defensive lineman. He's the lead blocker for Eddie George. So he pancakes the defensive lineman. He pancakes the linebacker. Eddie George has still got his hand on Orlando's back, following him down the field. He's got two pancakes. In comes the safety. He thinks he's going to try to make a stop. Orlando Pace trucks him, and Eddie George goes on to run a touchdown. That was the kind of man Orlando Pace was. He became a lead blocker on just about every single play. And it wasn't by design, it was because he was that good. He was that strong, athletic, and fast for his stature and size that it was unbelievable to watch. There has never been an offensive lineman in the college game as good as Orlando Pace was. I stand by that statement. I will die on that hill. Orlando Pace was the greatest offensive lineman in college football history. And he is an NFL Hall of Famer. I think he might be the only one on this list that I think about it. Yeah, he is, right? Andy Katzenmoyer is not. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is not, and Maurice Clarett is not. This guy is an NFL Hall of Famer as well, meaning he not only did this in college, he went on and did this in the NFL. He's one of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play the game. And like I said at the beginning, he revolutionized the entire position. The offensive line position will never be judged the same as it was prior to when Orlando Pace played the game of football. He is that amazing. He is my George Washington when it comes to impacts as a freshman. Jeremiah Smith, you betcha. It was an amazing impact. Maurice Clarett absolutely helped us win a national championship just like Jeremiah Smith did. Andy Katzenmoyer, yeah, the most intimidating linebacker I have ever seen play the game with my own two eyes. Incredibly impactful as a freshman, but none of them compare to Orlando Pace, in my opinion. That guy is an amazing Buckeye. And all of this talk about this greatness reminds me of one of my favorite verses, Psalm 145:3. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. Guys, thank you so much for taking part in this video this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Some of the videos this week are going to look and sound a little bit different because I'm going to be heading out and heading to Florida for the week for work. And so, not sure how much I'm going to be able to get accomplished on the video side of things for all of you. But I know Chris and Corey and the rest of the gang are on the job. Call-in show Thursday night with Chris. Don't miss that. Sunday night, Chris and Corey got a special guest coming in for the roundtable discussion show Sunday night. Corey will probably have something for you all Monday night for Buckeye Therapy as well. And Chris plans on doing some videos for everybody as well. So we're going to continue to pump out the content for you. And we want you to make sure to come back and check everything out that we do here at the OHIO podcast. Again, if you haven't already, smash that like button. Make sure that you are following the show. Ring the bell so you get notified. Subscribe, ring the bell. That way you know when we go live and we have new content that drops for you every single time. And of course, make a comment down in the comment section below. Do you agree with our list? Or do you have another freshman that we missed that you think should be considered for the Mount Rushmore? That means four, Mount Rushmore of Ohio State all-time true freshmen. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Till next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH and sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. You all know what to do. Go Bucks.